I can sell you, what I believe in and what I've been building, whether that's bringing Asian culture around the world through music, through 88 Rising, or through, Stampede Ventures, my feature films like K-Pops with Anderson Paak, bridging Korean culture and African American culture, or whether that's investing in a company like Musically that transforms the consumer technology experience through Goodwater Capital, or what I'm building now with OpenWav, which is a next generation music platform to power independent music artists to actually build sustainable careers. I do believe that you need to just do what you're called to do. Never compare yourself to anybody else but yourself. And every day, see if you could become a better version of yourself. That's to me
Okay.
success.
And that's
And doing what you're
success.
supposed to do.
Welcome to Entrepreneurism. I'm your host, Scott Pollock, a seasoned business leader, entrepreneur, and CEO coach with a passion for helping others achieve success in their entrepreneurial journeys. On this show, we dive deep into the world of entrepreneurship, uncovering why so many struggle and revealing what the most successful do differently. True entrepreneurs have unique superpowers, including the ability to spot hidden business opportunities and convert them into thriving ventures. For most mere mortals, this ability is absolutely unfathomable. But these same strengths can become sources of struggle, whether it's pursuing multiple opportunities without losing focus, scaling without eroding culture, or balancing short-term demands with long-term vision. The entrepreneur's journey is full of tensions. Here we explore critical factors that drive entrepreneurial success: how to stay focused, manage resources, build strong teams, and develop the resilience to navigate the ups and downs of the journey. Bold ideas, candid conversations, and insights that will help you unlock your full potential. Ready to learn and grow, expand your toolkit, and discover actionable strategies to help you navigate your own entrepreneurism? Let's dive in. Really excited to welcome to the show my friend Jaeson Ma, a true entrepreneur rock star. Welcome, Jaeson.
Hey, it's good to see you, Scott. It's been a minute.
Jaeson is a serial entrepreneur, venture capitalist, and investor across the entertainment, media, and tech worlds, named to Variety's most influential leaders in global media, and part of the Milken Institute's Young Leaders Circle. Jaeson co-founded 88 Rising and Stampede Ventures, and serves as a venture partner at Goodwater Capital. His portfolio includes TikTok, formerly Musically, Coinbase, Grab, Anthropic AI, and many more ventures, with over $1 billion in capital raised. One of my favorite moments with Jaeson about 10 years ago, which I'll never forget, is when he made a surprise visit to my office in Shanghai with Paris Hilton in tow, after taking her to visit Musically, which had offices next door to mine. But enough reminiscing. Jaeson, perhaps you can talk briefly about how you started your entrepreneurial journey.
I think we should start with the Paris Hilton Musically story. So it's crazy because I do remember that day. I was in Shanghai with Paris Hilton. At the time, we were working together as business partners on a few ventures. And I was like, hey, Paris, I remember we're there for the Shanghai Fashion Week. And I said, Paris, there's this new cool company called Musically. It's like a karaoke app for teens. And it's like super dope. And she was like, really? And I was like, yeah, check it out. She's like, oh, this is really cool. I was like, they're actually based here in Shanghai. And I was like, you want to go check out the office? And she was like, sure, let's do it. So the backstory of that was I was one of the first founding team members of Goodwater Capital, which is now the largest consumer tech fund in the world. But at the time, we're just this small little itty bitty fund. Our first fund was like 100 million, 120 million. And then my buddy Chiwa, who's the main founder, was like, hey, Jay, like there's this new hot platform called Musically. It's going to be like the next big social media, unicorn Facebook. But we can't get allocation in the deal. We met the founders. They're from Shanghai, but Greylock, which is, the big kahuna on Sand Hill, had the whole round locked down and they didn't want to give anybody any allocation. So he's like, Jason, go do your celebrity thing, do your Hollywood thing, and get us allocation. And I was like, look, I'll do my best. And so I just happened to be in Shanghai with Paris Hilton, walked into that musically office. I still remember it clear as day. I still remember, I think we did I stop by your office first before I went and brought her into musically, or I stopped by her office and then brought her to your office?
I think you came to us second.
Yeah, I
If
do.
I
I do.
if
I did. Yes, we came to you second, but I remember you were literally right next door, and I mean, it was not like a posh, office, but it was very much like a startup, tech vibe, Y Combinator vibe. And as I still remember, I brought Paris in, blonde bombshell, in her heels, walking through the musically office, and you had like 30 Chinese engineer kids, like like just turning their heads like, "What is going on?" And
Yep.
I still remember we sat down with Lewis, and I call him June, but
Mhm.
people know him as Alex. And they were showing us how to do a musically, which then of course became a TikTok. And then at the time, they didn't have any major celebrities on the platform yet. It was blown up with tweens, right? Kids like under 16. And and I was like, look, Paris, be really excited to do something with you guys. And they're like, we're actually just launching our live stream feature. And I was like, actually, Paris is DJing in Macau this weekend. And why don't we, launch your live stream feature with Paris while she's DJing in Macau? And that's how it got started. I went back to them and I was like, look, I really want an allocation in your Series B. And they're like, can you for sure bring us more celebrities like Paris? And I was like, I can get you guys even Ariana Grande. Because at the time, my partners were managing her at Untitled Entertainment. And I said, look, I'll get you guys Ariana, but you guys got to give us allocation. And that's how we got into Series B. And then so after we invested, was it, I don't know, a year and a half later, got bought by ByteDance for basically $1 billion. And that was our first unicorn at Goodwater.
Yeah, that's a great one. And by the way, I remember that day. I'm sitting in my conference room with some of my senior team, and we're on a conference call. I remember, and my receptionist, very timidly, knocks on the door, pokes her head in, and says, "Scott, Paris Hilton is here to see you." And I'm just like, "What?" So I, excused myself from the call, and as I poked my head out, there you are with Paris Hilton, and it was really pretty funny, and we ended up obviously getting pictures and everything to show for it, but it was a
You gotta put those pictures in this podcast, man. That's
yeah,
hilarious. That's amazing.
yeah.
And good for Paris. Paris has always been an innovator. She was always curious. She was always into tech and gadgets. And, I think, if you saw her documentary, I think it was on Netflix or one of the streaming platforms, just shows that, in many ways she's like a nerd. And just was always doing innovative things. And so just props to Paris Hilton, got us our allocation and our first unicorn for Goodwater Capital and Musically. So, which is now TikTok, the biggest platform on planet Earth. So who would have thought?
Indeed, one
Would have
that
been the
one that
next door
everyone
neighbor,
knows
Scott
about
Pollock.
now.
Yeah, exactly.
So take a step back. I mean, that was obviously one of many leaps that you've taken in your entrepreneurial career. Take a step back to, how did you even get to the point where you're traveling with celebrities like Paris?
I honestly don't know, bro. um,
You're very humble.
I've had a very, I guess, unorthodox journey when it comes to being an entrepreneur and a founder. I grew up from very humble beginnings. Mom was a single parent mom. Grew up in San Jose in the Bay Area. I started selling candy door to door when I was like 14, 15 years old. That's how I started hustling on the streets. And I was actually at a recent conference interview where they were asking me about my entrepreneurial journey. And I was telling them that, I started selling candy on the streets of San Jose. Like, I'm not talking about the nice streets, like, it was like the hood. And I was like 15, 14, 15, just trying to make an extra, buck, because my mom was a single parent mom. She ran daycare, and that was her job month to month. We lived month to month. We didn't know if we would, have food on the table. Literally every month, my mom would barely make it scrap by, or someone would drop us off grocery bags. And so for me, it was like, okay, I'll just like, pick up anything I can do to make some money and kind of be the man of the house. I had two older sisters. And so I still remember I was in junior high, and I was outside where you get picked up, where you're at the bus stop, and kids are just hanging out after school and just up to no good, just waiting to get in trouble or get arrested. And this white dude pulls up in like a white van, like those vans that like they take you over the border to Mexico and like traffic you with, right? And this guy pulls up, and he just opens up. He literally just opens up the door and says, "Hey, yo, you guys want to make some money?" And I'm like, "Hell yeah." And he's like, "Get in the van." And we're like, "All right."
Oh
So we
God.
literally jump in the van. There's like 5, 6 other kids sitting on like cartons. Like there's no seats. This thing's like full of cartons of candy. And we literally could have been trafficked. Who knows, right? What would have happened? And he's like, "Okay, you guys are gonna go door to door, gas stations, and just sell, $5 candies. And for every single candy you sell, you get $1." And I was like, "All right, this sounds like a deal to me." And so I remember I became the number one salesman. I started, on average, I would sell 15 to 20 candy bars per day, which would be like a 4-hour shift. Right. And literally he dropped me off at a gas station, dropped me off at some crazy, project ghetto neighborhood or some suburb or anywhere. And I would just walk up to anybody, ring any doorbell, knock on any door, and just be like, "Hey, my name's Jaeson Ma. I'm part of this program called Youth in Action. We're a bunch of inner city kids trying to make it to an end of the year trip to Disneyland, and we've never been before. So please, can you can you buy some candy from me?" And I would sell 15, 20 of these candy bars, and he would always pay us at the end of the day in $1 bills. And so at the end of our shift, I'd have this stack of like 21s, and I just felt like a billionaire. I literally felt like a billionaire. And he would always take us to the miniature golf course, and then we just play Street Fighter and play arcade and hit golf and, whatever. And that's how I started learning how to sell. That's how I
Yeah.
started
Well,
learning
that's not learning how to sell. That's selling.
it's selling. And I think that was really, interestingly, the fundamentals, right? And I think you asked that question of how did you end up with all these random Paris Hiltons in your life? And I just think I learned at a very young age, when it comes to sales, you just can't have fear.
Yep.
You literally just have to be able to talk to anybody about anything, and be able to believe in whatever you're selling so confidently that you're able to sell. And so that then led me becoming a drug dealer. And I started selling weed. I started selling shrooms in high school, and then that started leading me to selling Armani Valentino suits that I was stealing at Italian premium suit store at this great mall in the Bay Area I was working at, which then led me to meet Jesus Christ and start selling Jesus to a bunch of kids all around the world. But anyway, so I think for me, it's super interesting just that whole skill set of cold call, cold turkey, going up to anybody, anywhere, at any time, and selling anything. For me, that was candy, and then everything else. But that's how it all started.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know more of the story, so I know how to fill in some of these blanks. Certainly, like many entrepreneurs, you had to figure out how to sell, and I think that's one of the common things that entrepreneurs, most of them have, is that they can sell. They can sell their ideas. They can sell their products. You alluded to the fact that, you had to reform a bit, to say the least, from, being a kid who had a bit of a rough start. And I know you later on, you became a hip hop artist yourself, a preacher, a missionary, and that somehow led to starting, some of the ventures that came later. Talk a little bit about that and about, how does a missionary become an entrepreneur in so many different facets the way you have?
Yeah, back to that same train of thought or the same thread, think selling the gospel, when I say selling the gospel, you're selling it for free. It's not something you charge for. But for me, it was sharing the good news, right? Selling the good news. It was again, having that training to believe in something so much that you're willing to lay down your life, go to another country, risk, your security and your safety. And for me as a missionary was to preach Christ. And so for me, I still remember I had actually had my first job in Silicon Valley working for MC Hammer. And after I had met Hammer and I was working for him for about 5, 6 years, mainly in venture capital, media entertainment, but not a lot of people know that Hammer is actually a mission, not missionary, but minister.
Yep.
And a lot of times I would go with him to support him in the ministry. He'd go to prisons on the weekend and minister to inmates. He would preach the Bible on the weekends, on Sundays to 3,000 men. And after working with them for so long, I really had this bug where we had invested in Justin Lin's first movie, and Justin Lin is the director now of Fast and Furious franchise.
Hmm.
He
Hmm.
created Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift, and Hammer had invested in his first independent film called Better Luck Tomorrow, which then got him the job for Tokyo Drift, and then became this big Hollywood director. And so when I saw Better Luck Tomorrow, which is all Asian American independent film, I was like, wow, like this is the first time I've seen Asian culture represented on the silver screen the right way. And I was like, this is what I want to do with my life. This is what I felt God was calling me to, was I want to represent Asian culture and mainstream media the right way. And so when he has shown me that film, I told Hammer, I want to go to UCLA or USC, get my master's in film and TV, and represent Asian culture and mainstream media. At the same time, I was running this hip hop Bible study that grew to like 200 kids on every Tuesday night. I was kind of like a miniature youth pastor. And I told my pastor from Hong Kong, this guy named Pastor Poon. I remember he's like super conservative. And I was like, hey, Pastor Poon, God's calling me to Hollywood. And he said, that is not God talking to you. That is Satan talking to you. I was like, what? He was like, you're definitely not going to Hollywood. That's the devil's plan for you. You're going to be a third world missionary in a third world country, whether it's Africa or Indonesia or Somalia or wherever, and Argentina. You're gonna represent our denomination, the Christian Missionary Alliance, and we're gonna send you to Bible school. You're gonna study the Bible, and you're gonna be, this missionary for Christ. And I was like, bro, you're crazy. I'm not gonna be. No, that's not what I'm called to do. I'm called to represent, Asian culture and mainstream media. And so I remember going to Hammer, and it was one night in the studio. I still remember it was Fremont, California. It was like 4 a.m. I still remember very clearly. We're actually recording a K-pop band at the time, and that this is way before K-pop was a thing.
Right.
It's like
Yeah, I
two
was gonna
this
say this is
oh
pretty
yeah.
early.
Yeah, it was like 2001, 2002, I don't remember exactly. And then I was like, Hammer, what should I do? I got Hollywood in one hand, and I got, third world missions, God's work in the other hand. And he looked at me, he's like, Jason, look, been there, done that. If you go to Hollywood right now, the spiritual condition you're in right now, those demons will eat you up. You won't come out alive. And he is like, go do God's work, go to Bible college, study God's word, build your character, and build your spiritual foundation. And he's like, after you do God's work, if he calls you back to Hollywood, it'll still be there. And so I took his advice and I decided to go to seminary to study God's word, study the Bible. And then I became a missionary in 40 countries over 5 years. So like every two
Wow.
weeks, I would go to a different country. And I would go and preach the gospel. I would start churches, mainly on universities with students. I would be a full-time exorcist for whatever reason. I would just end up casting out devils out of all kinds of people, demons out, all kinds of people from like, like Africa to like India to Thailand to Myanmar to like God knows in the middle of UCLA in LA. And then, we would go and start schools and hospital clinics and orphanages. And it was an incredible experience for me in my early 20s, right? I really felt like that was the right choice. I was able to build a foundation that was outside of entertainment and media, outside of the stars and the limelight and all the gold and the glitter, and
Hmm.
really got to understand human nature and understand God's nature and understand what that gap that was necessary to bridge, right? God and man, or man and man, and cultures to culture. And being a missionary really is that, right? It's about
Mm,
understanding someone else's culture. It's about
right.
becoming cross-cultural, which then bridges into why my passion has always been connecting East and West, bridging East and West, through media, entertainment, technology, through stories and talent. That's been my thing.
Yeah, and it's interesting because so what I take away from that is that as a missionary, you really learned about people, and being successful in business is about people. So that's
100%.
that's a great bridge. And speaking of bridges, bridging East and West, you've been doing that for well over 13 years now. Since I guess around that time you founded East West Ventures, and talk a little bit about what's changed in that period of time and what stayed the same? Today, there's just a lot of tension between East and West, certainly, global politics and whatnot.
Well, dude, bro, when we were hanging out in Shanghai, those were fun times. I mean, I love Shanghai. It probably still is my favorite city in the world. I just think
I agree with you.
there, yeah, when I met you, which was around 2016, I mean, it was truly the mecca of East West, right? I'd never experienced a place where I felt like it was more authentically East West. Some people would say Hong Kong, and Hong Kong's like my second home, and I would say it is, but um, I don't know. Hong Kong sometimes feels too British to me,
Hmm. Hmm.
but I felt like Shanghai was just this bastion of like Star Wars bar scene, right? And it was like everyone and anyone from any nation, any culture would just collide, right, in this
Yep.
place called Shanghai, but it felt 100% Eastern. But at the same time, it felt interestingly 100% Western to me,
Mm.
right? From the food to the technology to the culture to the music, it was both ancient and it was both future.
Mhm.
And so for me, Shanghai was such a great experience because at that time, China was just really beginning to open up after she came in 2012, and really that's when you saw the Alibabas and the Tencents and the Baidus and the Musicallys and the bike dances really begin to just take over from a consumer technology standpoint, right? All of a sudden, there was this other Silicon Valley called China, right? And really, the whole world was like, we gotta we got to have a piece of this. And so you saw Wall Street, you saw Silicon Valley, you saw Hollywood, you saw, every single domain in the world started converging in Shanghai, in China, and Fortune 500 companies all set up their, global HQs or offices or fabs, all there. And there was business to be done. And there was cultures to be shared, and, I would go to a restaurant or I go to a club in Shanghai and I'd see every culture of the world, right? And people spoke English at the same time they spoke Chinese, and it was just an amazing time. And then of course, um, Donald Trump came.
Things have changed a bit. So yeah, we don't have to go into
and,
it.
and
It,
then
it
Donald Trump was elected in 2016, and then and at first it wasn't really that bad, right? It wasn't like crazy, but I think towards the end, or was he elected in 16 or was he elected in
it
yeah,
was
he was elected
16.
in 16.
It
That's
was
right, right?
16 first term. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, we can skip the actual politics, but in terms of your work working with celebrities, across the ocean from each other and working with partners all over the world. Fast forwards, what's changed and what's stayed the same since what you described, which I agree. I mean, Shanghai represented the epitome of East and West just going crazy together.
Well, I think geopolitics changed,
Yeah, well,
right?
that's for sure.
And I think that was the main switch, right? I
Mm,
think especially right before COVID and after COVID. So I think to me it started with Trump, China virus, Kung flu, Wuhan, right? And then all of a sudden it just became this US China war, right? Where it was, hey, our technology versus your technology, our military versus your military, right? Our ecosystem versus your ecosystem. And all of a sudden, where Hollywood was taking in billions of dollars from every Chinese investor from left to right to north to south, same with Silicon Valley, same with Wall Street, all of a sudden that immediately got shut down. And it
Mm,
was now no longer, not even whether it was accepted or cool, it's technically illegal to do business in China if you're from the US, right? And then, of course, the US and their allies begin to take a position with the US and then others with China. And then BRICS started happening. And then after COVID, I thought, honestly, it was very interesting to me with Biden. I really felt like it got worse, right?
mm,
And then from there, everything changed. And I think that was for me really disheartening because I felt like East and West was having this incredible conversation, and there was this amazing respect and collaboration, and almost healthy competition. And then once that all stopped, that's what's changed. Now, what's remained the same is you still have the two most important nations, right,
yeah,
in the world, that right now, as I speak, are meeting in Asia, and Donald Trump is taking his Asia world tour and signing peace treaties and meeting with the Prime Minister of Japan, and it's still 100% East and West, and
yeah,
and the world knows that the second largest economy is now China. I think it was just yesterday there was this official announcement that China is no longer a developing country. Obviously, that's been obvious for years now,
right.
but it's now a first world nation, right? Which is fascinating because if you just go back 50 years, it was literally Somalia, right? And 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 here it is, the number two superpower in the planet, and there has to be a conversation. And so, is East and West what's changed? Nothing has changed in terms of how important it is to have this conversation between East and West from an economic standpoint, from a technological standpoint, from a military standpoint, and just from a relational human standpoint. Asia's still 60% of the population of the world. And by the way, when I say Asia, it's not just those that look like East Asian like me, it's South Asia, India, it's West Asia, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Doha, Northern Africa, Ethiopia. I mean, as you can see, all the money in the planet is in Asia, right? And that's why that conversation is still happening at the highest level right now, right? And so I think it's more important than ever that if you can somehow be a bridge between the West and the East, and of course the North and the South. But if you can actually play a role, whether that's diplomatically or whether that's technologically or that's culturally,
Hmm.
that to me is still the most important position to be in this critical time that we live in 2025 going in 2026.
Amen. I'm with you there. You know, you have gotten your fingers into so many pies. You've gotten involved in so many different ventures. How do you prioritize what you're going to work on, and how do you define success? I mean, what's your North Star?
I'll start with how do you define success? For
Hmm.
me, success is doing what God put you on earth to do, period. Full stop. Right. So if God created you to be a podcaster, be the greatest podcaster you could ever be. If he created you to be a ballerina, be the greatest ballerina you could ever be. If he created you to be a mathematician and a hedge fund trader, or he created you to sweep streets. I think Martin Luther King said himself in one of his quotes, be the best street sweeper that ever existed. And so I think everyone was created to do something, right? Now, some people have multiple talents. Michael Jordan can play basketball and baseball and golf. Right? Shohei Ohtani can pitch and hit grand slams and home runs. Um, but some people, whether you have one gift or talent or skill, or you have five or you have 10, I always think, what's your primary gift? What's your
Hmm.
primary skill set?
And what's
And
yours?
and what's mine? I think mine's to sell, to be honest with you.
Okay,
I think
that's your
I
superpower.
I think my superpower is I'm a salesman.
Hmm.
and I'm able to sell anything to anyone. Um, doesn't mean I'm the best, but at least I know I do believe in what I sell and what I am building at that time, or what I'm trying to give to you that I believe is a gift or of value that hopefully is helping and solving a problem for whether it's a customer or a corporation or a country. And so for me, if you're born to be a fish, don't try to be a bird and fly. If you're born to be a bird, don't try to be a fish and swim. Right? So I think it's that basic. It sounds simple and almost laughable, but it's true. Like, I know so many people that are always constantly comparing themselves to someone else they're not, obviously, and they get depressed and they get dejected and they reject themselves. Like, why am I not a billionaire? Why don't I have that job? Or why can't I be more like this or look like this or, come from a family like that? And I'm like, hey, God gives everyone what they've been given. And my job, your job, is to do the best with what you've been given, and to do it with the skill and the passion and the drive and the purpose. And so I think, as Bruce Lee has said, the most difficult thing for a human being is to honestly express themselves through their personality. And I find it very powerful when I heard him say that quote, because I feel like everyone's trying to be not themselves.
Yeah.
Everyone's always trying to be like something else they see on Instagram or TikTok or social media. And so when you truly find your authentic self and you're able to express yourself honestly through, when I believe he says yourself, that means your gift. Like, is it kung fu? Right? Is it, my friend designs the Meta glasses for Meta. I mean, like, thank God God created that guy, right? Shout out to Josh Toe, right? But I use these things all the time, and I think they're fantastic. So my point is, that's
Yeah.
not me. I can't invent Meta glasses, but I know what I can do, right? I can sell you, what I believe in and what I've been building, whether that's bringing Asian culture around the world through music, through 88 Rising, or through Stampede Ventures, my feature films like K-pops with Anderson Paak, bridging Korean culture and African American culture, or whether that's investing in a company like Musically that transforms the consumer technology experience through Goodwater Capital, or what I'm building now with OpenWav, which is a next generation music platform to power independent music artists to actually build sustainable careers. I do believe that you need to just do what you're called to do. Never compare yourself to anybody else but yourself. And every day, see if you could become a better version of yourself. That's, to me,
Okay.
success.
And that's
Is doing what
success.
you're
Yeah.
supposed to do. Yeah.
I like it. And you just mentioned a few of the many ventures that you're involved in. How do you prioritize? I know that at this point, certainly, there's more than enough ventures, I'm sure, that are chasing you, that they want your sales superpower, to help energize them. How do you pick?
For me, in my life, I've always had one primary business when it comes to being an entrepreneur,
Hmm.
or focus in any season of my life. Right.
Okay.
So I call myself a serial entrepreneur. I can't say I'm similar to Elon. I mean, if I was one thousandth of Elon, I'd be very proud of myself in that way. But I would say that you're a serial entrepreneur when you have multiple ventures. Most of the time, serial entrepreneurs are starters. They're not, I would call, sustainers or builders, right? I think a classic builder is a Jeff Bezos, is a Mark Zuckerberg, is a Sam Walton. They stick with one platform, one company, right? And they focus and they continue build their empire through that one platform, that one company, versus someone like Elon, who's a serial entrepreneur. He has one idea, then he has a third idea, then he has a fourth, fifth, 100th idea. And for each of those ideas, he forms a team, he builds a strategy and a plan, he raises the capital, and he's there in the initial phases to really get it going. And then once it's catalyzed, he finds, the right leadership to run it on a day-to-day basis. even like what he did with X, which was not normal from his other ventures. He bought Twitter, and you could see that the first year and a half, I would say, or so, he was just so actively involved, right,
Right.
in Twitter and transforming it into X, making sure there's a new company culture, making sure there's a new leadership team, making sure that the product and the roadmap is getting executed exactly how he sees it. And once those, I would say, structural parts are in place, then he lets that go and then starts the next thing, right? And so myself, I'm very similar. Like I see myself as a catalyzer. Like I can understand, oh, this company music. I remember when I saw Musically, I was like, this thing's going to change the game. It was like it was the most disruptive social network I'd seen or experienced since Facebook,
Hmm.
right? Or even Instagram, right? But even Instagram at that point wasn't like it was mainstay, right? But it was like Facebook, then there was Instagram, then there was TikTok. But I was like, wow, this is really a different user experience and a different use case. And so I just had this sense that it was going to blow up. It was going to take off. And so for me, what I do is I catalyze. I bring in other energy. And so for me, I've always been there right before something blows up, right before something's about to take off. So in some ways, I'm prophetic that way. Like I just kind of see, like right now with OpenWave, why am I doing this? I see that there is about to be a shift in the music industry. Streaming's been around for 10 plus years. Artists are not getting paid through streams. It just doesn't work, right? And so you can see that there is a massive challenge and there's a massive problem,
Hmm.
and artists are vocalizing it, right? Like, hey, F Spotify, F streaming, I need to go direct to my fans. And so what I see now is, okay, massive problem also means major opportunity.
Right.
And then, of course, how do you actually create a product that can actually service that customer who says, hey, give me the tools to do what I can't do over here that I can do with you. And I think that is what I see next, is that there's going to be this major movement of artist direct to fan, creator direct to follower, where there isn't an algorithm or a middle layer, but they're able to just build their community and build a sustainable ecosystem and career out of that. And so that's what I do believe is a trend. We're going to see, obviously, AI is a trend right now, but I see more and more, you won't need all these antiquated institutional systems that we're used to over the last 10, 20 years. Everyone can be direct and everyone can actually be their own business.
I like it. I like again another superpower. You as the catalyzer and the visionary. You're seeing problems that need to be solved, and I love the fact that you're thinking about how to solve them, which is really that is core to being an entrepreneur. It's not building for the sake of building. It's building to solve real problems and problems that your customers care deeply about. I want to jump quickly to a segment that I do with all of my guests, quick fire entrepreneur hacks. What's one book every entrepreneur should read?
Greatest salesman on earth.
Mm, I love that book.
Yeah.
Excellent. What's one thing you do every morning to set yourself up for success?
I meditate and I pray.
No surprise. What's a tool or app you can't live without?
ChatGPT.
Yep. What's a daily habit that keeps you grounded?
Giving thanks before I go to sleep.
Mm, gratitude. And what's the best piece of business advice you've ever received?
Find a mentor that you are inspired by, respect, and look up to, and not only learn from them, but implement what you learn from them. And a mentor does not have to be someone you actually meet in real life. It could be someone that you just read about. And so, go
That's
read every
interesting.
book, yeah,
Yeah,
on Warren Buffett, if you want to become the best investor in the world, right?
yeah,
So I find mentorship is absolutely necessary in anyone's journey to success.
absolutely. And leaders are readers. I like that one. And who's been your greatest mentor?
MC Hammer, he was truly formational for me as a young man, being his assistant at 17, 18 years old. He taught me everything I am today. I'm a venture capitalist now today because he was a venture capitalist and an investor and entrepreneur. I was once an artist and I would watch him perform, at the Golden State Arena on the weekends and at a baseball game and at a tour and a show. And he was also a minister. He, taught me how to cast out devils and teach God's word. So I never asked for it. He actually asked me to be his assistant. He's like, "You're Asian. You must not use a computer. It can work for me." And
I love that.
but I think it's God's plan. It was God's sovereign
Mhm.
grace that brought me there.
I love it. Final question for today. What's one piece of advice you'd give entrepreneurs who are just starting on their journey?
The only failure is not trying. And if you don't get started, you don't even have a chance to fail. That's why I call it the only failure. You'll never fail until you know, right? And you will never know until you try. And so every failure leads you closer to success. And so if you are a young entrepreneur thinking, should I do the safe route or should I take the entrepreneurial route? I will always say take the entrepreneurial route because you can always go back to the safe route. Even if you fail, even if it hurts, even if you stumble, if you fall, get a few scars, hit your head, at least you'll have that experience and go, you know what? I wasn't meant to be an entrepreneur. I was meant to work for a corporate institution job, and that's fine. And that's great, right? Because everyone has a place. Everyone has a place. There's followers and there's leaders. There's entrepreneurs and there's those that work for entrepreneurs. And we're either one, neither one is better or worse because it takes a village to succeed. And just make sure that you give it a shot and you won't regret it.
Perfect. There's so many topics we could get into, but let's close there for today. Really appreciate you joining the show today, Jason. Thank you.
Hey, always good to be talking to an old friend, Scott. Are you still living in Beijing?
Shanghai. Yeah, still in Shanghai. Love it. 20
How is
actually
it?
just celebrated 20 years here.
How's it? I was there April 2024. It didn't feel like it changed much outside of it didn't feel like there was as much expats at the time and international in that sense, but still was fantastic. Shanghai. I mean, how's it? Do you feel like there's been changes or?
There's been changes, but I would say Shanghai post-COVID is back, and it's still one of, if not the greatest metropolitan cities in the world. It's fantastic. So I want to wrap the show for today. Again, you've got amazing and super entertaining stories. I know we could reminisce for a lot longer. To my listeners, we've got many more amazing guests lined up. Please subscribe, leave feedback, and share this episode in your feeds.
Smash that subscribe button.
Thanks for listening. Remember, entrepreneurship isn't just about spotting opportunities. It's about taking disciplined action to bring them to life. Hope you'll join again next time as we continue to unpack the complexities of entrepreneurism.